Presiding Officer, this week the UK COVID inquiry has started to take evidence from Scottish Government witnesses. It is the first we are hearing from the Scottish Government in any public inquiry about their response to the COVID pandemic. 3 years on from the start of the pandemic, bereaved families are still waiting for answers. But here in Scotland, families are going to have to wait even longer, because last year the chair of the Scottish COVID inquiry and its legal team walked out. And we still have little idea of when the inquiry will begin questioning ministers and officials, let alone when it will conclude. So, First Minister, will grieving families get the answers they deserve by the end of this Parliament?
First Minister.
I can thank Anas Sarwar for raising what is an incredibly important issue indeed, and he will be looking at and observing the UK COVID inquiry, for which, of course, there are a number of Scottish witnesses in front of the UK inquiry today. Anas Sarwar, as an experienced member of this Parliament, of course, will know that it would be inappropriate for me as the First Minister, deeply inappropriate for me as the First Minister, to interfere or intervene in what is an independent public inquiry. Of course, we want the COVID inquiry to be delivered at speed, but what I will say to Anas Sarwar is, having met the bereaved families myself, I can completely understand why they want that COVID inquiry to move, the Scottish COVID inquiry, to move at pace. It's so important that the COVID inquiry takes the necessary steps. It has to get those answers in a transparent way and manner. And the final thing I'll say to Anas Sarwar, and which I'm happy to repeat time and time again, whatever we can do to cooperate with the inquiry from the Scottish Government, we absolutely will.
Anas Sarwar.
I hear what the First Minister said, but this is important for thousands of families who have lost a loved one, to NHS and care staff, and everyone across Scotland who will be frustrated by the Scottish inquiry running behind, because we must learn the lessons of the pandemic. But the inquiry's conclusions will only be as good as the evidence it receives. Over the past few weeks, people have been horrified by the UK Government's decision to withhold evidence from the UK inquiry. In Scotland, the Scottish inquiry team issued do not destroy letters to public bodies, including the Scottish Government, last August. It made clear that all documents, including emails, texts or WhatsApp messages, should be retained, and that any destruction of these messages is a criminal offence. So can the First Minister confirm that all ministers and officials, past and present, have complied with the do not destroy instruction, and will he give a guarantee that all requested emails, texts or WhatsApp messages will be handed over in full to the inquiry?
First Minister.
Yes, they will. And of course it is important that I abide by the rules of both the UK public inquiry and the Scottish public inquiry. Section 17 of the Inquiries Act 2005 gives the chair alone the responsibility to decide how an inquiry should operate. It's therefore a matter for the independent inquiry chairs to make decisions as to what material they request from the Scottish Government or indeed from other participants. Both inquiries have taken the decision, again, the independent decision, not a decision that I interfere in whatsoever, but both inquiries have taken the decision not to publish details of the requests they are making to participants. But all participants, including the Scottish Government, have been asked by the inquiry not to share the content of requests that they receive. And so, of course, the Scottish Government will comply with the request. But to ensure there is simply no doubt whatsoever, any material that is asked for, WhatsApp messages, emails, Signal, Telegram, whatever is asked for or requested, will absolutely be handed over to the COVID inquiries and handed over to them in full.
Anas Sarwar.
So this is really significant. So to confirm, the First Minister has told us that all ministers and officials, past and present, have complied with the do not destroy instruction, and that all ministers and officials, past and present, will hand over all evidence in full without omission and evasion. As I say, a really significant intervention from the First Minister. Because COVID took a heavy toll on everyone across this country, and we continue to feel its impact. The least we can expect is that when grieving families come looking for answers, this SNP government provides them. Because we know, sadly, that this is a government famed for a culture of secrecy and cover-up. Last week, Dr Lisa Mitchell KC, the lawyer for the bereaved families across Scotland, said this at the UK COVID inquiry: "No person, no institution, no matter how powerful, whether it be in England, Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland, Westminster, Holyrood, can obstruct the search for truth. So will the First Minister commit to writing to me and other members of this Parliament outlining what steps the Scottish Government has taken to ensure that all ministers and officials, past and present, have complied with the Do Not Destroy order, and how this data is being retained and how it will be handed over to the inquiry?
First Minister.
Well, I think that question from Anas Sarwar is because he didn't expect me to, of course, say that I would fully comply with the COVID public inquiry. So he was not able to adapt his second question as a result of the answer. So I'm happy to reiterate what I've already said to Anas Sarwar. This is a really important issue, so Labour may not want to heckle this point. I think it's really important for me to absolutely reiterate that we have, of course, and have had a long-standing policy on retention of documents, and not just documents, in fact, as per email or written correspondence, but including social media messages. So I'm more than happy for that guidance to be shared. I'm more than happy to write to Anas Sarwar or any other member who has an interest around how we comply with those various guidelines that are very much in place. What I would also say to Anas Sarwar is this is absolutely about the bereaved families. That's why the Government has met with the families who have been bereaved by COVID. We will cooperate fully with that inquiry. Anas Sarwar suggests that we are not transparent. I would remind him it is this Government who instructed that public inquiry. And I would also remind Anas Sarwar, in fact, it was my predecessor who stood up every single day during that pandemic to face questions from the press in order to communicate as openly and transparently as possible. So we are transparent as a Government. We'll continue to be transparent.
First Minister,
we will continue.
If I could stop you there, could we please stop having conversations across the aisles? It makes it very difficult to hear. First Minister.
And we will continue to cooperate fully with both public inquiries.